Welcome, everybody, to today's Building My Legacy podcast. I have with us again today Natascha, who has a company called Bliss Unity, and she is in Australia. So she is awake very early for us to be able to hear her. But I've had her come back because, as some of you will recall, she had a model that was a fascinating model that I thought might be very useful. But let me give you a quick overview of who she is. So if you missed the first podcast, you know who Natascha is. She graduated from the University of Applied Sciences in business and marketing, and is from Germany, went from Germany to Australia and discovered her true passion, which was in coaching and for results coaching, which I think if you're like many, many people out there, we're tired of the hype and we just simply want to get on with it and have results, right? Well, that is what Natascha focuses on, is results. So she's worked for over 6 years in business and marketing. She's worked with coaches in over 7 countries, and she helps people generate income in less than 30 days. For coaches right now that are struggling, that's remarkable. And so I want to bring to you one of her processes in her system that she talks about. It was in our show notes following the podcast last time. It looks a little bit like this. We will make it available again in the show notes this time. So if you missed it, you'll have it to download this time. And so she has 5 elements in her blissful method of attracting clients. The first one is, who am I identifying with? The second is, who do I love to work with? The third is, what question do I want to eliminate that the client might have that might make them resist working with me? The fourth is, how can I connect with my audience and convert them into a call? So it's the marketing aspects. And then today, what we want to focus on is that fifth one, which is where I think so many people fall down, and that is soulful sales. What a name. And it's all about, how can I help my client make the decision to commit to a future vision? So Natascha, with that introduction, I'm going to let you take it from here and talk about it as you would like.
Thank you, Lois. Thank you so much for having me here again. I really enjoyed our conversation the last time. And I'm really excited to talk about soulful sales, because it's something that I actually used to struggle quite a lot, but I actually really fell in love once I understood how to do it properly. And that is pretty much something like behind my mission, something I'm really passionate about, by helping people, especially coaches, to understand business, marketing, and sales so they can actually fall in love with it and have fun doing what they want to do, right? Because that's most of the time our main reason why we want to start our own business, going into this heart-centered entrepreneur theme pretty much, or the industry, because we want to do something we love. And then we're facing the obstacles of, oh, now I have to learn about marketing. Now I have to learn about sales. And when I started out, I remember that one of the most important parts, and actually to get clients, is to have conversations with prospects. So this is for anyone, whether you're starting out, whether you want to attract more clients or increase your income. The number one thing you should be focusing on is not necessarily how much content you create, but more how many conversations you actually book. Because once you have a conversation, like actually get the chance one-on-one to speak with a potential prospect or potential clients, from that point, it's either yes or no. Like, it's so much closer to actually sign a client. And this is one of the simplest way, and also the fastest way to really make sure that you're helping people and signing clients so that you can increase your income.
So what's interesting is you're having conversations, not selling people, because I think so many times we get caught up in the sales and then we forget it's a conversation. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the number one thing to understand about sales is you never really sell to someone. You always make an invitation to join your offer or to join your program, right? You invite them into your offer, but it's always their decision to say yes or no. Because sometimes the biggest misconception, what I hear people say or what they hear or feeling when they talk about sales is always this like uneasy feeling, this sleazy manipulation, like all these bad words. But actually, most of the time, and I went a little bit deeper, like, why do we actually feel that way? And most of the time we feel that way when we feel like we're getting pushed into something that we actually don't want or don't need. And then it's a bad experience, right? But when you think about something, when you bought something that you really needed, that you really wanted, and that you were really excited about buying, your whole experience is so much more fun, right? You enjoy it and the whole process, you get excited. And I have people joining my program who are excited, who can't wait to get started. And that's the same way we want to apply into our business, right? So have people jumping in and saying, hell yes, I can't wait to join, full of excitement and happy to transfer the money because that's just part of it. So the most important part here is really to understand that you never really sell, right? Like, let's put selling to, like, put it in the back of our mind, because it's not really selling. It's more like we're making an offer. Like, that's really what it is. And they still always have the choice to say yes or no. So we can't push them into something. And if you have that mindset, it always is a little bit easier, because then we're not falling into that bad role of being this like sleazy salesman, but actually someone who wants to find out. I want to find out if we're actually a good fit. And when you're just in the opportunity of having a conversation to find out if you can help, what they actually need help with, and if your program is the right fit, then it's so much more soul aligned. However, there's more to it, because when I started out, I remember that I knew having conversations is the most important part. So I went on and got super busy, and I booked, I think, like 16 to 70 calls within 2 weeks, full of 16, 70 calls, 2 weeks full. And I was like really busy, and I was so excited. Yes, I got all these people I can talk to. And I didn't sign any single one of them. Like, every single person was a no.
Oh, wow.
After you hear 17 times a no, it can be quite frustrating, right? And you can take that as, oh my God, I should stop. I shouldn't be doing this anymore. And I feel devastated, but I still kept going, because I know, and this is really important, which I really want to bring across for every entrepreneur out there. There's no such thing as this black and white thing, and either it works or it doesn't. Every single no is something that actually brings you closer to a yes, when you understand how to actually pretty much translate it. But when you translate it not in as a rejection, but more as into feedback, then you can actually work with it. So taking that no was not for me, I should stop my business. It was for me, it's like, I need to improve my sales skills. That's it. Because I knew what I had to offer was the right fit. And I've heard it from people, and I could tell that they needed it, but I just wasn't able to help them make that committed decision, right? That's really what it's about, to help them make the decision to commit to their future vision. So the baseline is that you need to have a program that you know, like really know, not hope or wish or believe, but that you really know is helping your potential client. Right. And that brings us pretty much to the very first point of the soulful sales part, and that is the certainty, right? You need to know that you can help your potential client. That, as we said before, it's the whole basis of the whole Bliss method. That's why it's really important to understand who your dream client really is. And the better you understand them, then you can create an irresistible offer that, in fact, is irresistible. But the certainty goes a little bit deeper than that, because certainty is really the absolute secret sauce to sales. You can have the perfect sales script. Seriously, you can have like a sales script written out from like the most professional salesperson on the entire world, and you can follow it. But if you're missing certainty, you're not going to convert. So, because here's the thing, what I said before, like the main purpose of sales is really to help your audience to make that decision to commit to their future version, right? It's all about like who they want to be, and your program helps them who they want to become, right? If you're someone who helps people lose weight, they want to be that person that has a fit body. If you want to help people to find the love of their life, they want to be that partner, that dream partner for someone, right? Like our identity and our future version and also our vision, it's one of the biggest driver. However, when we go into pretty much like changing our identity, or more like, let's say, transforming our identity, we're facing a resistance. And the resistance is the old identity. The resistance is the old identity of like, I want to stay safe. So there will come up some kind of, pressure, because that prospect experiences that resistance, right? I want to be here, but it's safe to be in my old identity. So what we have to be doing is to understand how to actually talk to the person in order to move them across the line to make that committed decision. So that's really what sales is about, helping them to overcome their own resistance so that their old identity is not holding them back any longer to their dream, towards their future vision, to where they actually want to be. And that old identity, that's here where certainty comes in place. That old identity with the false beliefs of, I don't know if I can make it work. Some people have been struggling for quite some time. Then it's harder for them to make a decision again, right? And I think we all had the experience when we did invest in something, but it just didn't work out the way we wanted to.
Right.
So when we understand the subconscious mind and that identity, the subconscious identity more, it's easy around it. So there's a saying in sales, and it said, the person who has the highest certainty or the strongest certainty wins. So either you are 100% certain in your ability to help your clients, in your offer that it will help your clients, that it actually gets them to where they want to be, right? It's like on a scale, I don't know, from 100%, you want to be like super high up.
Right.
Or the client, the prospect, has so much certainty in their false beliefs, in all of their limiting beliefs in terms of, it's not the right time. I don't think I can make it work. I don't have the money right now. Like, these are all just beliefs. But whoever has the most certainty in those beliefs, right? You need to have the belief that I know I can help you no matter what. And when your certainty is higher, they will be converted pretty much. Like, it's really about that, because the number one thing they're really asking themselves, like subconsciously, or like the silent question your prospects are having on the phone call with you, is always, does it really work for me? Right? Will I be successful?
Yeah.
That's the main thing. And when you can help your prospects to answer that question, and not just saying it, but they feel, because it's all about the energy transference, right? But if they not feel that you're certain in it, it's like, yeah, maybe I think I could help you. Their beliefs are so much stronger. So their beliefs are winning. And this is one of the most important parts, when we understand that sales is not so much about the words you're saying or give me the next tactic, but more understanding the principles behind it. And what I said before, that the certainty has to be there. The certainty also has to be there for you in your price point. And that's where a lot of people are always struggling, because they go into the price point, obviously, when they're creating the offer, and you can see all the amazing value and it logically makes sense. However, if you don't believe that the price point is actually of great value, then you will have troubles to converting it. So it's always easier to start off a little bit lower and get the certainty behind that price point, get the certainty behind your offer, see amazing results from your clients, and then increasing it. Because you not putting the price point based on the actual value, but more based on the level you can convert. And this is really important, because and this is like something I actually learned from a mindset coach, because he was saying that we are not getting paid based on the value we are providing. We are getting paid based on how much we value our own value.
Oh,
So,
interesting. That's a very interesting perspective, but it's true,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah.
100%. Because you can be the most sophisticated person in your market, but if you yourself don't value it, right? If you don't value it and see that it's actually valuable, that it's worth that price point, people won't buy it. Because here's the thing. If you would go to a shop and you want to buy a necklace, right? Like a beautiful necklace. So you're going to ask the salesperson, how much is that necklace? And then the salesperson says like, well, I think it might be worth $200. What do you think is that necklace actually worth?
You would say, well, maybe it's only worth $100.
Exactly. You immediately think it's lower. You don't think, oh, maybe it might be more. You don't think that because the certainty is missing, right? And that's what a lot of people are doing. It's one question I really like asking coaches is always, how much is your program? And the answer, not necessarily the number, what they're saying, but more importantly, how they're going to answer that question gives me such a big understanding of where they're at in their mindset, right? Because most of the time, when I ask that question, it's a simple question, right? It's pretty much like state your name, state the number, but it's like how they're stating the number, the dollar sign number, right? But also what they're saying afterwards. Because very, very few people are actually saying the number and stop there. So many people, they, first of all, well, it's this like 6-month program and I have this, and they start to justify it, either before or after stating the price. And that shows me that the certainty is missing, right? When you have the need to justify it, you're not really strong in your core. Because I just asked that question, right? And that is just for me as a coach, right? In a client conversation, it's different. But that just shows me so much of there is a certainty missing. And you can see it's such a crucial piece in order to convert at that price point. So it's this like construct pretty much. As you can see, the principles about sales are way more important than the actual tactics, right? You maybe heard some tactics in terms of have a pause where after you say the price, which are all great, but if you're missing the principles, those tactics don't work.
Yeah.
Exactly. So starting off with the foundation. The second part is then having your own commitment. And that is what I said before. When that old identity faces insecurity in terms of, oh my God, I'm about to change. Because when someone commits to working with someone for a longer period of time in exchanging money for that, they're committed. They're committed in that relationship and they're committed in the process to change, right? To transform. That old identity gets like the alarm signs and says like, oh my God, I don't want to change. This is unfamiliar. This is not safe. That's pretty much how our brain translates it. Right. So what happens is the prospect comes up with a lot of resistance and they might project those resistance towards you. And that's where we have to have that commitment that it's not about you, but you staying strong and not buying into your prospect's limiting beliefs. Right? It's like you have to have the certainty and then also that commitment that you stay strong in your certainty, not buying into the mindset in terms of, I don't know if this is the right time. Will it be the right time? Right? So this is quite important that you have that commitment to really help your client. Because here's the thing. When your prospect says, when you know, first of all, obviously it has to be a right fit. You know that you can help them. And that is actually something they really need and want. But the only thing that's holding them back are those limiting beliefs that are fired off from that old identity. But if you know that you actually can help them and that prospect can change their entire life when they're making that sometimes scary decision to work with you, it's your duty to help them make the decision. Because that's the hardest part. Once the decision is made, they're going to be excited and they're going to be on their way towards their future vision. But when that prospect says no, and you let them off on the phone call, what do you think will actually change in their life? Not very much, right?
Not very much. You've just given them you've let them know they can't do it, actually. So
exactly.
It's worse. Yeah.
And that's what we have to understand. When someone books a call with you, right, there are always two decisions. We can't force anyone to do anything, right? It's always the other decision. And they decided and they said, yes, I want to speak to you. I want to talk to you. And then we have that conversation and nothing else changes afterwards. We did them a disservice, right? Because we know nothing else in their life changes. They came onto that call with the hope for the transformation, but they know they can't go there on their own. So if we're not committed enough to go through that process and letting people off the hook by buying into their limiting beliefs, their life won't change. And we're not, that's what we're here for. We want to change. We want to help people transform and change their lives. Like that's what we're here for. So that's where the commitment has to be there. Because when you let them off, what could happen either is they stay the same way and they're never going to achieve their goal, which is pretty heartbreaking when I think about this, right? Or they will go to the next person who is committed enough and helps them to convert. Because they want the transformation. That's why they're there for.
Yeah. They're looking for help. Yeah.
100%. And the third part is then about actually running the conversation in a way that inspires people to make that decision. Right? This is quite important where we pretty much like speaking towards the brain, but we're speaking in a way that we inspiring our potential client in order to make that decision. So that's all we want to do. That entire conversation is designed to help make someone a decision. So it's pretty much like the formula to how to make a decision, right? So let's put sales on the side, but actually, what's the decision? Do you want to change your life and actually get the help you really need? Or do you want to stay the same, right? So that's pretty much where we're starting off by asking them, okay, where do you even want to go? Like, what's your goal? What's your vision? And also understanding the driver behind it. Like, why is that even important to you? And then the next step is pretty much where we go into where I like to call it like nourishing their motivation. And nourishing their motivation is where we're going a little bit deeper in terms of the problems, what's happening at the moment, right? Like where are they currently are from that future vision, from that goal, where are they now? And what kind of problems does the current situation actually creates? But then in order to really nourish the motivation, to get motivated to make the decision, we have to go a little bit deeper because people are two ways motivated, right? They're towards motivated, meaning towards a goal, or away from motivated, away from pain. And the truth about human behavior is that human beings are twice as motivated to move away from pain. Right. When you get the opportunity, when someone tells you, okay, I want you to, I don't know, let's say 100 sit-ups, so you earn $100, right? There is some kind of motivation, based on your level of fitness, maybe if you want to do it or not. But you're twice, 100% more motivated to say, okay, do 100 sit-ups. Otherwise, you have to pay me $100. Oh. And you probably feel it straight away, right? It's like, oh, I don't want to lose my $100. I'm way more motivated to do the sit-ups now than like gaining something. And that's what we need to use, like in order to help someone, like understanding how the brain works, how human behavior works and implementing that. So then we have to motivate our prospect and showing them what they want to move away from, to have that motivation to make that decision. Right here again, and I say it often enough, the motivation and the decision is to change their life, is to commit to their future version. So you just simply ask them, what are the consequences if they're not going to change? Because you're here not putting anything in your prospects' minds, they are answering the questions. And it's pretty much like clarifying the way, because most of the time why people are not changing is because we think there are no consequences. Everything stays the same. But when we actually open up this curtain and actually seeing what is the future you're actually running to, where you're actually going towards when you're not going to change, it can go really ugly. And you wish someone did that actually with you, that you don't need to experiencing it. Right? So many times we hear after a breakdown, there's a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Right? So many times. How many times do we feel like, oh, sometimes like it has to go, like we have to hit rock bottom, like when we can't go even like any lower in order to be inspired to move away from, right? That's pretty much what we're doing here, but we're preventing that prospect to actually experiencing that in real life by just doing that in their mind. So you're doing here really good service of them by actually lifting the curtain, because the thing is, you're asking them the simple question and they're telling you the truth where they're actually running to. What will happen in like 3 years or 5 years if you're not going to change? And that is where the motivation comes, because this is like, it might be a little bit of an uncomfortable question, because it's not necessarily something super fun or exciting. It's like, yeah, you can achieve it, right? But it's being honest. And your prospect will really appreciate that, because they are not asking themselves that uncomfortable question. They won't go there. Their mind wouldn't allow it, right? Their mind just want to be in the safety. But actually understanding what are the costs of staying safe and not changing, you have to be aware of. Because I'm 100% so convinced, like, about transformation in general, when we're more aware of the actual consequences of our current behavior, of our current emotions, of our current thoughts, when we actually understand the consequences behind it, we are way more motivated to change it. Because how many times do you feel like there's someone, when we can stay in victim, we can stay in victim mode all day long, because we think like, oh, we are allowed to do it, right? Oh, but that person really did me wrong, but I'm really poor, and COVID really hit me hard. It's like, yeah, but what actually happens when you stay in this victim mode for a really long time? What are you getting out of that? And because we're not aware of the consequence, we think it's okay. So as soon as you understand, oh my God, if I'm going to stay in this victim mode, like, I can't get my business up. There's no way I can pivot because I'm so busy being a victim. Yeah. So that's pretty much what we're doing here in this point. And once we have the consequence, that's where that's where you prospect, make the decision to change. That's where they're making the decision to change. And then it's about, okay, helping them to make the decision with you, where you're helping them, when you're educating and giving them some piece of wisdom, some piece of knowledge that actually really helps them. Because then you're showing, right? You're not telling, but you're showing that you are the authority. Plus, you're also, I'm really giving you all my secrets here, right?
They're wonderful, Natascha. Yeah.
But what you're also doing when you actually educate your audience with like one piece of wisdom that really helps them, and they are understanding and they can pretty much like implement straight away, you overcome one of the hardest objection that's there to overcome. And the hardest objection that's there to overcome is the silent question your prospect has in terms of, will this work for me? Right? Because there's one thing believing you that you can get results. I think my internet just stopped. Whoops.
It's a little unstable. It'll come back. There we go. Is it back for you?
Oh, no. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you and I can see you.
Yeah, it's break. Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
Can you hear me? Okay. What was the last piece before I stopped?
You were talking about, just a moment. So we just went through excitement, getting people to commit to, it's your duty almost to get people to sign up and to change their life because of the consequences. So we just finished then about the consequences.
Yeah. Then about the biggest objection. Have you heard that? Like,
you were just starting that. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. So one of the biggest objection, or the hardest objection to overcome, is the silent question people are having in their mind, is that they're asking themselves, will this work for me? Right? They can trust you as an expert that you can help other people, But most of the time we kind of feel like, no, I'm special. I don't really think if that's going to work for me. And this is one of the hardest objections we can actually face. However, if you're going to educate your prospect on the phone, giving him something really of value, really snappy, really tangible that they can understand straight away and can see when they're implementing it, it actually gives them some kind of results, right? They don't necessarily have to do it, but just the understanding that gives them the proof, hey, what you're teaching me or what you have to offer will actually work for me because they are experiencing it straight on the spot.
They are experiencing it. Yeah.
So that's a really great way to actually overcome that objection subconsciously, because they're not even talking about it, right? You're kind of demonstrating it. And then it's about like providing, pretty much like pitching your offer in a way that makes them want to say yes. We're really talking more about the emotional part of the brain and justifying it then with logic. But that's pretty much the conversation, like the structure. But you can see every single piece has a reason, and there's a reason for like why you start off with what the goal is, why you need to go into the consequence part to have them motivated, right? It's like really the step-by-step process that helps that person to make that committed decision. Like that is really the end goal. And the fourth piece, which not necessarily always happens, but the fourth piece of soulful sales is the contentment. I call it contentment because I like actually having alliteration because it's all 4 C's, right?
Yes.
But the contentment here means pretty much overcoming the objection. And the reason why I call it contentment is when they're having objections and say like, oh, I don't think it's the right time. I don't really, I don't know if I have the money. I don't know if it's going to work, right? All the different objections that are all just stemming from the old identity, right? Like giving me some kind of beliefs, maybe the person buys into or the salesperson buys into. When they're going off of the phone, they're not happy because nothing has changed. They just had a conversation with someone, right? So they can't be content. And you're not content because you know you can help them. So that's why overcoming those objections, those false beliefs is actually there in order to have that contentment, right? In order to be happy both sides, where you know as a culture, as the business owner, where you know you can help them. And also for that person, they know their life will change. So that's why I call it that way. And I think it's a really good way also to reframe it, because otherwise we feel we're falling into the tactics. Okay, that person said this objection. What am I going to say now? Like, give me the sentence I can fire off, and then they change their mind. But it's not so much, again, of the tactics, it's more about the principles. And if you understand the principles about contentment, right, we can forget about the sleazy tactics. So what I like to do in the objections is, first of all, always understand them, right? We want to help our clients to understand, well, I do understand why you feel that way. For example, when they say, oh, I'm not sure if this is the right time. Let's go with this one, right? And you say, okay, I totally understand how you might think that way. Because we want to meet them where they're at, right? We always want to be in rapport. And being in rapport means meeting them where they're at, right? And by having some kind of empathy, because of course, there's a reason why they're having that thought. Obviously, because of that old identity is there, but they're not aware of that, right? They're believing their old identity, firing up, it's not the right time. But our certainty is higher. So we being in empathy, right? We're not getting down on a level. It's like, oh my God, yeah, that's so true. It's not the right time. No, we're not buying into it because our certainty is higher, but we just understand it. And then when we understand it, we want to dig a little bit deeper. Well, I'm curious, just before, right, when they had this commitment, the consequences piece, when they already made the decision, oh my God, I have to change. It's like, you were so certain. I'm just wondering, like, what actually changed? Because what you want to do with the objections, and this is really one of the best ways how I handle any kind of objections. Not looking at the content, meaning what they are saying, but looking at the context. So I don't really care what they're saying because I know it's the old identity speaking, but I do understand, right? Oh, of course I understand it's firing up because the old identity is speaking. Right. So I just want to get them aware and get them out of their old identity and get them into a higher awareness. And that's where I dig in deeper. Not necessarily talking so much about what they're saying, but more how they're saying it. And this is one of the best parts, because I had this with like a couple of clients, and because they were so excited, they were so fired up. And then when it came to the commitment part, the old identity like put down the handbrakes, right? It's like, no, I'm not ready. And like firing off the objections. So then I'm just being completely honest, right? And I asked for the permission, can I be completely honest with you? And of course they say yes, right? And then just say, well, before you were so excited and you knew that you wanted to be changing, but now I can feel there's a lot of uncertainty, like there's this disbelief coming in. And then it's like, oh yeah, that's true. Because you can feel the energy drops, right? They're excited, I want to do it. It's like, oh my God, now it's, I don't want to do it.
Right.
It's not that they don't want to do it. They're just afraid, right? That's all.
Yeah.
So when we're looking then into like, what's actually going on, and then saying and help them to understand, like we're digging deeper and then help them to understand, well, isn't that this not believing in yourself? Isn't that the very thing that holds you back from achieving your goal? That's, you obviously you're going to ask all the questions and ask for the problems and like why they haven't achieved it. And most of the time people have that, when they're having that belief of, oh, I'm not good enough, I don't know if it's going to work, they can see how that belief is really playing out, or maybe even not knowing the right steps or the right strategies. But what you will find is that the reason they're not achieving their goal is the same reason why they will fire up the objection.
And what is that?
Well, for example, like for a person that doesn't believe in themselves, it's like, yes, I really want to do it. But when it comes to, it's like, okay, well, I know I have to jump on sales goals. Okay, why are you not doing it? I'm afraid, right? I'm not sure if I'm good enough. I'm afraid of the rejection. Then when it comes down to the objection, they're firing it off. Whatever they're saying is like, well, now there's this uncertainty. The uncertainty belief is here again, or I don't know if it's going to work. Right. So you will see that it actually, most of the time, it's the same thing. So you're not necessarily talking so much on the content, but more the context, like, oh, isn't that the very thing? Right. For example, when we say it's not the right time. And that was actually the main thing about of the timing. Well, I procrastinate a lot. I know I should be doing it, but I'm not feeling ready. Like that's the same thing that also holds them back from achieving their goal. And when you help your prospect to understand that this, because it's their go-to safety mechanism, right? Your identity will free up the same thing to achieving it, and same thing to help you achieve it, right? It's the same process. Now there's another person who actually covers it up, and you will see it's like, oh, that's this thing. You're not going to get over it until you decide to move over it. And when they understand and have that understanding, it's like, wow, the very thing that's holding me back from achieving my goal is also the very thing that makes me want to say no to this opportunity. And with that understanding, now it's about, okay, let's go back to making the decision from that higher awareness point. When they understand, oh my God, that's true, I'm done with it, right? Then you can go back. Okay, are you done? Like, are you ready to change now, right? Where they're committing towards a change. So this is a really good process in terms of dealing with objection, not necessarily based on what they say, because you can pretty much Google it, right? Like, I'm sure there are hundreds of YouTube videos you can say, like when people say like, oh, I don't have the money or whatever, right. You can always like have the sentences, right? But it's more like, this is one of the most powerful ways to overcome objections, when you not necessarily listen to what they're saying, but more like why they're saying it and where they're coming from. And that positions you not like a salesperson, just like giving, firing off the arguments, but more like helping them to understand, hey, I'm on your side. Let's dig deeper where that belief is actually coming from, and changing that belief straight on the spot in order to make that committed decision. Yes. And there you have it. These are pretty much the 4 pillars of SOFO sales: the certainty, the commitment, the conversation, and then the contentment.
I think this has been, Natascha, one of the nicest and best summaries of a sales process I have heard, period. Because you hear so many people talking about the marketing perspective and then fall short on the sales. And that's where people fall apart, is you can market until you're blue in the face, but if you can't close the deal, there's no point. You might as well quit the marketing. So I just really appreciate your perspective and what you've shared with us. Thank you so, so much.
You're very welcome. So as you can see, for every single piece of my, the bliss method and the pillar, I really thought about things, and I created a process that helps you to understand it. So you have more fun doing it because you're going to see the results. And that's pretty much what I do in detail with every single process, every single step you face, from no clients to getting fully booked as a coach. That's really the main thing I'm doing in my flagship program, the Dream Client Formula. So I'm really excited and be able to share parts of it, and so that people already can take the value from it.
Thank you so much. I am going to make sure that coaches that I know about this podcast and what you do, because it is where people fall down and become discouraged and quit. And I think you have an approach that is so clear. People can actually produce the results. So thank you for that.
You're very welcome. And they do. Like my clients, they're using this process, never went on a sales call before, pretty much just following that script and understanding the principles behind, and signing their very first paying client, even though they're super nervous. So it does work. Yeah.
We will, for those of you who are listening, have information about Natascha in the show notes. We will also have a copy of her Bliss Method that you can download. And should you need or help with getting in contact with her, let us know. We'll be happy to make that connection for you. Natascha, thank you for that really lovely, lovely explanation of the sales process.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure to be here.
And those of you who are listening to us today, thank you for joining us on Building My Legacy podcast. And please remember to visit us on our website, www.buildtomorrow.com. and our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube for buildtomorrow.com. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Thank you for watching my video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell button above. Leave comments. We'd love to hear what you think. And visit our other social media links as well. Thanks much.